For the first time, the UNESCO World Congress of Biosphere Reserve has been held in Asia, here in China. The gathering has brought together voices from across the globe. In an exclusive interview with Lidia Brito, UNESCO's Assistant Director General for Natural Sciences, we'd explore how multilateral governance can help confront climate change, biodiversity loss, and other urgent global challenges, while finding ways to balance protection with development. And at the heart of it all lies the power of science to connect nations, inform decisions, and guide humanity towards a more sustainable future.
So, Madam, thank you so much for joining us today. What is the importance and what is the value of the MAB program for today's world? And what is the latest development of this program?
Okay, thank you very much. And I would say that more than ever, the MAB program, as we call it, it never has been as important as it is today, because the crises are interconnected. You mentioned climate change, biodiversity loss, and of course, a sustainable use of resources. Instead of putting people here and nature there, the MAP program, it really brings both people and nature together to take care of a landscape, of a culture, of a language, of a river, of a mountain, together, so that you have this harmonious relationship between people and nature. We'll have the local communities, the local authorities, the local businesses that are in the transition areas. You will have the youth and the elders. You will have the men and the women, all working together towards developing this concept of sustainable development.
And China has made a lot of efforts on this sustainable development. So how do those efforts reflect the UNESCO's vision?
China is doing really well extensively, is restoring degraded ecosystems. You are, in a way, bringing back these ecological services that nature provides to the planet, to humanity. But at the same time, you create livelihoods opportunities, because we have many programs restoring mangroves. By doing so, we are bringing fish back, seafood back, protecting the coastal areas against the big storms.
Yes.
Because the mangroves create this fast barrier.
Yes.
People are involved doing that work, getting paid to restore, but at the same time, having the other sources of livelihood restored. I was very, very impressed with this program that it's called ecological civilization. Mm. It's a kind of philosophy.
Yes.
It's our civilization, yes, is to be rooted in nature.
That's right.
And we cannot disconnect ourselves from nature. What China is doing in the biosphere reserves, it's so much aligned to what UNESCO is doing. And there is a very interesting, it's called Wuyi-Shan Biosphere Reserve.
Yeah, Wuyi-Shan.
They are an outstanding example to promote and support cultural heritage. In the case of this biosphere reserve is the tea,
yes,
the tea cultivation,
yeah,
with the biodiversity conservation, but also with the thriving economy. They have this thriving ecotourism industry that really creates sustainability livelihoods for the communities that are protecting the biodiversity and that are at the same time also protecting the culture heritage. It's a wonderful example where you have this modern technology with traditional knowledge working together, for protection, for conservation, and for sustainable development. I also believe that China's leadership in the COP15, the fact that the Commune in Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, it's really the instrument now for countries to really respond to their commitments in the protection of biodiversity. Biodiversity Fund, it's a wonderful instrument to implement the framework and to support countries, and in our case, to support our biosphere reserves, to be part of that framework and to support their countries. And UNESCO has been very privileged, UNESCO Biosphere Reserves, because in the first call, 3 projects were approved under the fund, I think showcase very much the leadership of China in this very important area of biodiversity conservation.
China recently proposed the Global Governance Initiative. So what is your takes on that initiative, and what is your takes on this global cooperation in science and nature reserve?
More than ever, we need initiatives that foster multilateralism and that foster international cooperation. We cannot afford to be divided. We need really to work together because we are connected. If one country is suffering from the effects of climate change, it's going to affect that country. The transnational biospheres, for example, are very good examples of when countries come together and say, together we are going to protect this pristine ecosystem that we share. The communities in these different countries come together and say, we have a joint responsibility. We need to talk, we need to co-create, we need to be co-responsible also in finding solutions, but also in implementing solutions. And if we share among all of us in science and knowledge become a common good for all humanity, you will have a smart humanity that will push for peace, that will cherish the difference and diversity instead of being afraid of it. UNESCO launched a very big program this year on science diplomacy, precisely because we think science can play an incredible role in peace building, in addressing climate change, in supporting the most vulnerable countries in protecting themselves and being able to respond to the increasing numbers of natural disasters. And scientific cooperation is fundamental, and therefore science diplomacy hopefully will be part also of this important initiative that China is putting forward.
How do those biosphere reserves contribute to addressing the climate change, the biodiversity loss, at the same time to improving the livelihood of the human beings?
This is at the core of what MAP does. When we deal, for example, with climate change, that is something that we are facing around the world. One of the contributions is to understand, for example, what are the impacts of this changing with climate change, because these are interconnected phenomena and crises. By doing so, it allows us to understand better what is happening and come up with possible solutions to mitigate or even to adapt in protecting species that provide important ecological services that you need to monitor how they are being affected by this change of climate, how are they being lost because encroachment in some of the pristine areas. So the core zones protect these species. So in a way, they become the seed banks, the protection of these specific areas. So there are many ways, but again, through science, through co-design of programs, through understanding better, and really explore all the solutions that can really lead both to a sustainable livelihood, but also sustainable conservation of these territories.
Well, I can tell your science background because you have mentioned a lot about the science data. It's very, very important. But we make out all of the solution based on those data. Before we move on to our next question, I want to show you this trailer of our latest documentary that has been released by CGTN. This is called The Land of Diversity 2. It's a sequel to our first The Land of Diversity, which is released during the COP15. But this year, because the MAB's conference is holding in China, so we released our sequel of The Land of Diversity. I want to show you this trailer.
I can see already beautiful images.
Let us return to the wilderness of our planet.
And we also including many science research in this film.
Of course.
This is Land of Diversity.
Very nice. Wow, beautiful.
Thank you.
Wow.
Because we have the filming, we're making the film about this this documentary, and we have traveled around China, and we realized this very, very important things is how to find this balance between the conservation and development.
The balance is not really fixed. It's very dynamic. So you have constantly to monitor, to adjust. You cannot leave anyone outside the discussion because, again, it's not conservation and development. In the MAB reserves, you have conservation and sustainable development. That's why we have full protection areas where really there we are fully protecting the most endangered and the most iconic biodiversity of the region. We manage the surrounding buffer zones. We can already measure and monitor this relationship between people and nature. And then on the transition zone, then push for sustainable development using green technologies, using zero carbon technologies, the local authority, the local communities, but also the scientists, the business people that operate in these zones. They are part of the biosphere. I think if we see ourselves as part of the whole environment, then we can find, and that's the core. That's the core what our biosphere reserves do.
How does the UNESCO see the role of science in sustainable development?
Is the bedrock. We need more science than ever. It helps us to understand what's happening and allows us to have choices. That's why I think the United Nations Assembly gave to UNESCO the leadership of the International Decade of Sciences for Sustainable Development. Our core mandate is about that, is how do we use science to promote sustainable development and how do we ensure that technological advancements benefit all and are ethical and are used ethically. We need to bring science evidence to the policy discussion because we live in a very complex world with interconnected challenges. You need science to understand what you can do, and you need technology also to come up with solutions that can then help us to bring humanity and the planet to a much better situation that we are today.
What is the core mission and a priority of UNESCO in the next decade in terms of science and science cooperation and natural protection?
The decade of science for sustainable development is a big for us. We have two very big pillars. One is how to bring science back and the right to science back to citizens by creating a culture of science in our societies, by promoting science literacy, by opening up opportunities for everyone from very small to very old to be engaged with scientific endeavors, so that science, it's in our DNA, and everyone can have the chance to produce scientific knowledge, but also benefit and use scientific knowledge. The second one is how to work with the scientific and technological ecosystems at national, regional, and global level to really make sure that they are responsive precisely to the challenges that we are facing. In the area of conservation, more than ever, putting forward our scientific programs, the Man in the Biosphere Programme, the Geoscience Programme, the Water Science Programme, the Basic Science International Programme. How can we mobilize through our scientific programs really the larger scientific community to address issues related to water conservation, water management, and addressing water scarcity, how to use this scientific knowledge to address the increasing of natural disasters and building resilience, how to make sure that the agenda on biodiversity conservation it's right there in the front of everyone, and how to bring this knowledge, these possible solutions to decision making at global, regional, and local level.